Calling Chattanooga Mayor's Office, July 7th, 2021, 11:17 Eastern Standard Time, in reference to the Town Hall kidnapping of an advocate. Funny how the phone's just ringing. 423-425-6201. The present mayor, I believe, is Tim Kelly. Andrew Burke was the prior mayor, a Democrat. Tim Kelly is an independent, a businessman. The prior mayor, a Democrat, was an attorney.
You've reached Chattanooga City Hall and the administrative office of Mayor Andy Burke. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. The non-emergency line for the Chattanooga Police Department, 423-698-2525. City Hall is open for business Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. If you need assistance navigating city services, please take advantage of the city's 311 call center by calling 423-643-6311 or by emailing 311@chattanooga.gov or through the 311 app available to smartphone users. Phone numbers for city departments and their administrators can be found on the city's website, chattanooga.gov. Otherwise, please leave a message and staff will return your call as soon as possible.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, simply hang up or press pound for further options.
Hello, my name is Good Citizen Leslie. I can be reached at 413. I don't want to give this over the phone. I am calling expressing my grievance and disappointment at the kidnapping done by one of your guards. You folks need to have much better training. I'm just happy that the police officers didn't cuff and pummel this highly respectful constitutional advocate. Tennessee volunteers protect the Constitution. Thank you. So disappointed and shaking my head. Respectfully signing off, Citizen Leslie. I'm just tired. I'm burned out, folks. And I haven't even been out there getting my face planted into the pavement. It might be more useful in the function that I've created for myself, for you, for our children, to show reasonableness and commonality of purpose, to reduce cliques and drama. So I make my calls and I work behind the scenes and I put up thousands.
You have reached the maximum time allowed to make your recording.
I'm tired, you see that? And I make thousands of comments. And I try to have a no drama zone, but as we know, that's virtually impossible when you're dealing with a lot of alphas. We're all alphas here. And we pretty much crawl over each other, especially when we do tandems, everyone wanting to be king of their own hill. We're not going to make it to the next level if we keep doing that, you know? It's winning hearts and minds of the public. The public. The public. So if you know about what you do and what we do as a movement, aside from the viewers who, of course, would just look for the next car accident to roll by, the best reality TV show around, right? Very few can instigate properly. Most are on the borderline of sabotaging all the hard work that other noble auditors who know what they're doing have accomplished. As indicated on second revisits, they might not like what we're doing, but at least they comply because they want to pick up that next paycheck, right? Minimalist, obscuranting thwarters, colluding against the citizens who pay them to protect our civil rights. It's just confounding to me. Shaking my head. SMH. More cameras, more justice. There's a direct correlation, but you gotta know what you're doing. Get your egos out of the way, please. Weren't any of you a Brad or a Karen? Would you admit it? Is memory so short that you can actually call someone else a Karen without that little bit of you inside knowing that you're a hypocrite? Because that could have easily been you caught on camera 4, 5, 10 years ago for sure, except the ones who have been disenfranchised from the beginning for good reason, for hating the government. We get that. But you'll give no quarters. You say that the cops are the ones who escalate. Yeah. And we call them robots. I call them robots, mockingly. I'm very sarcastic. I admit that. But I try to do it with a purposeful reason, not all the time. I'm not proud of myself for some things that I say or I do, but I try my best to remain focused on our absolute goal of preserving liberty for the sake of our progeny, regardless one's hue. I had a few people unsub me from that little parody I made about the Bloom County uh, puffing marketing sale I put up in a southern accent. Not a bad southern accent. It might have even been a bit of a Tennessee accent. And you know I love my Tennessee auditors, and you know my position on me being red, white, and blue, and that's my shoe. And that a lot of you don't like that because you think I'm too patriotic. I began with this in my first video because you thought I was too articulate. And I said there that I can jump to different dialects because I'm a writer. I get mocked for the way I speak. I've had my tongue half removed. I've experienced what it's like for others to assume that I have less intelligence because I spoke somewhat like what we used to call a retarded person or a mentally handicapped person or a now special person. And then they would speak louder to me, thinking that would help me comprehend them better, because I was slurring my speech so much, having had a third of my tongue removed. I learned to speak again without the help or aid of a speech therapist, because I'm a good chameleon, jumping to conclusions, reading just or listening to just half a soundbite, and concluding with certitude who I am or what I stand for or what someone else is or what they stand for, because you've never broken bread. Your certitudes kick in, and you call or we call ourselves tolerant and cops intolerant? Hypocrisy. Cutting down our own, mocking the public. Brads. Karens. You think that wins hearts and minds, or do you think that just pushes them away further, and then they might go home to their tween or teenage children and talk about how maybe the First Amendment does have to have another amendment to mitigate it? You really think that the 4th of July will be around by the time my 2 and 4-year-old grandchildren reach majority? Think twice. It's a public holiday. That's not written into the Constitution or the Preamble or the Declaration of Independence. That was legislated in and it can be legislated out. There are already municipalities that are making it illegal to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which was also voted in, just like In God We Trust was legislated into our monetary system to be stamped into the coinage. Liberty are fragile rights that we have, natural rights, that too many do think that if the citizenship had their druthers and voted whether to annul the First Amendment or the Second Amendment within cities, or that you'd have to pay exorbitant yearly fees for more extortion revenue for something that shall not be infringed because of others' interpretations, or groups like Schrodinger's List. Educated people, they probably have a higher education level than our community, but completely misinterpret the reading of Poster 7, nor do they ever want to even look to see the hundreds of videos that come out where both police and postal inspectors and postal police. Last one, just a short one a few days ago by Rogue Nation's Major Lee Awesome himself put up. They're ubiquitous, out of the horse's mouth, verifying Homeland Security memos and Poster 7. Advocates really should carry a lot of these documents around with them. I happen to have given our small local post office a copy of Poster 7 because they had none themselves. I didn't go in with a camera for several reasons. One, I don't shit where I sleep. And another is unless a post office has really lousy reviews, then I'm going to leave them alone, just as I leave alone low-level employees who have not been trained properly by their supervisors. Come down hard on those supervisors, please. And some cops just make way too much money between your bonuses, overtime, pension, and corporate moonlighting with the same authorities as though they had their uniform on, which they do wear on sometimes while moonlighting. It's extraordinary. And who knows the kickbacks from tow truck drivers and other ancillary quasi and illegal sources? When one of the people's press on referred to police as gang members, he's doing it by the literal definition of what a gang is. Now, if you try to make a list, a Ben Franklin closing list of pros and cons, or make a comparison of law enforcement officers and the mafioso, and run the list down to see the comparison, and or other general gang members, whether it's in East LA or Oakland or Hartford, Connecticut. There's a lot of similarities. What one of the people is differentiating, the difference between a gang member and a gang banger. In a similar context of the relationship between the one who holds up a bank and possibly even shoots and kills a teller or pummels the bank manager, and the getaway driver. He's just a getaway driver trying to put bread on the table for his children Yes, we have empathy for those who don't have the wherewithal, but when you have an entitlement feeling that you're due because you hate government, and that government and wealthy people are holding you back, let me kind of tell you a secret. Come a little closer. Let me tell you. Industrialists don't sit home with their friends planning how to keep down the poor. They're discussing where they're going to their next vacation at St. Bart's or the Riviera. As a matter of fact, they'd rather not have to pay extra taxes to support who can afford to buy those units. It's not even an ethical decision. It's just simply because of the money. It's in their best interest not to have poor people. That's just my opinion. What do I know? So I make these calls and I put up a few, and we all do as much as we can. And I'm old and I'm burnt out. It's affected my health. I'm still smiling. I cry every single day and every single morning. I try to save someone's pleasant comment to me on how they appreciate the little I do and hope that others do so as well. And I cry. And we all cry. Cry for our children and their sake. Because when liberty's gone, especially from America, who an inordinate large percentage of our advocacy world despise, they'd like to actually defund everything, including the government, including the Constitution, yet they call themselves constitutionalists. I'm very confused about that. Haven't gotten a good explanation, but there are other things in life that I haven't gotten good explanations about. I'm pretty smart. There are levels of wealth and there are levels of intelligence compared to my brother. He's up here. I'm way down below where the monitor is sitting on my lap. And I try to control my ego for the sake of commonality, but shaking my head. All our alphas, which are great, just because you know a little bit about the first and second and fourth and fifth and 14th Amendments doesn't mean you know everything there is to know about geopolitics or jump on every single conspiracy theory that comes your way because of your hatred and distrust for all things government. You want to run it yourself, a lot of you, and have your own police force. Do you know how that's spelled? It's spelled MOB. You want to have utopias? I'm sorry about that. You'd have to go back about 100,000 years for small tribal unit sizes, or just to live in your own house with your family, because that's where socialism exists in America, where we freely give things and share with those we love, and the farther away we get from that and the larger the numbers increase, society is formed, and being predators, we're a little less likely to want to give all that away freely. Well, if you have nothing, you might. And to think that wealthy people aren't charitable. think what you want, or that the blue states are more charitable than the red states. Even I'm a statistician. I've checked these things. That's all I did with my blog site, House Divided. 30 to 60 fact checks with the other half of the soundbite from the horse's mouth, trying to show that there's more commonality than not. You know, and mainstream media, MSM, is trying to keep us apart for their clickbait. You know that, right? There's not a lot of time for people who are scrounging where that next dollar comes to put bread on the table for their kids. Yes, it's hard. People are struggling. You think that if the wealthy gave up every penny that they had in their investments, that would be enough to distribute to the rest of the population to make much of a difference? And how well trained is the rest of the population to use those funds wisely if they had them? We all read stories about people who have won the lottery. How few of them have a penny after just a couple of years? Come on now, folks. It's human nature. You have to work for things and make your own luck. It's sweat, equity, and risk that these businesses are started. Most businesses have a 50% failure rate, higher in the restaurant business. Please support small businesses. These large conglomerate corporations are now international globalists. That's a concern. They collude with China. And now Russia is coming on board with China. Little Russia. Little Russia, now you understand. Russia, Russia, Russia. I try to stay out of geopolitics here in the First Amendment movement. I know when people check in as a first viewer on my 30-second welcome video saying, I'm red, white, and blue. What about you? What's your hue? There'll be a percentage who just won't follow me because I think I'm just a gung-ho patriot with no mind. Well, the reasoning behind that is that the same way I started my house divided without people knowing what my hue was, so I could manipulate and take advantage and force them to think by assuming I might be a minority so I can get away with saying things that others can't from their perspective. Constitutional Words Lives Matter. I've made a video on Black Lives Matter. I've made enough vids on various subjects. If you put the pieces together, you can kind of figure out who I am and what I stand for. I didn't do this necessarily for you folks, but for my grandkids. I'll be dead by the time they're older. So if I get these things on YouTube, they'll get to know who I am and what I stood for. And hopefully I'm on the right side of history if they're allowed to see YouTube, if they're allowed to celebrate the 4th of July with all its warts, with all our First Amendment and cop watchers warts, with all the Karens and Brads warts, with constitutional warts. You want to judge the social mores of Jefferson and Adams based on today's social mores? Well, just wait till your grandkids look back on you when they're good Maoists. Watch out, because you thought you were so wonderful. Oh, who will laugh beyond then? Things are all relative. The First Amendment is there to protect not comfortable speech, but speech that makes people feel uncomfortable, you fucking bastards. And you wonderful advocates, one and the same. Don't you know I love you all? And if I want to say colored people, or nigger, or kike, or fucking Jew, or any other derogatory name I want, if someone else can say it, so can I. Just don't make any laws about it, because I'm not instigating anyone but the chasms of your own rotted minds. I speak my 1A mind, and those are probably the first or second times I've ever used those words, and I'll do so publicly to make a point. I'm a wordsmith and I have a large enough vocabulary that I don't have to use ad hominem, and when I do, it's quite purposefully. I generally stick to sarcasm. I could viscerate anyone I want with my words, and I actually enjoy it. I relish it and hold back doing so. Don't you get it? I control my ego. Try it sometime for the sake of liberty and progeny. What we do today is important because our children count on us. Liberty isn't just an ephemeral word, it means to protect eccentricity, it means to protect minority rights, it means to protect the guilty from the temporary mob of the majority. Now I know how algorithms go, and I know that I was able to get from 85% of my viewers female down to 75%. Thank you, those extra 10% of males who sub to me. Bravo for you and bravo for the ladies. My words are for all of you. Constitutional words, lives matter. And the way it goes, it drops from above like that. As soon as I see I'm not getting my face planted, and then it steadies out along the way. And I'm thankful for the 25 or 35% who actually view me to the end. Because I've got my ego and I think what I have to say has merit. I'm not going to be making many more of these vids. There's one I've been holding back on because I'm angry and I don't want to leave you angry. Nola D said I should learn to end my videos with a smile. After my first, she asked me to put up a few coronavirus, but we weren't allowed to say C19 back then, remember? Just like we're not allowed to badmouth anything that counteracts what the CDC says. I'm not going to give you my own opinion. I skirt around that. I just want you to do what you feel is in your best conscience to do. I don't think government to force people to wear something like that. But my brother was a medical oncologist and PhD in microbiology from Columbia. Graduated from MIT with 800 in his boards. Head oncologist, MD. Sloan Kettering, right? Mars Project manager of the first mammalian birthing in space and long-term robotic and human space travel project. It's not as though I don't have a critical thinking background, but I'm not here to tout myself and my family background. I just want you to know where I came from. I didn't choose to be who I am. Respectful to one another, and not jump to conclusions. I'm rolling on. But that's Nola D. She and I have different political views, but we respect the shit out of each other. I love you, Nolly D. Thank you for supporting me from such an early state. And News Now South Florida, who was the first to believe in me, followed by Rights Crispy and Wolfie Gladly, and many others, and of course, my beloved, one of the people press on, well, who gave me the opportunity to get a few of you, just a small portion, to hear me out. I'm stepping back quite a bit, folks. I'll still be around. I wish I could do more. I wish that I could have done more. I wish I could walk further and do tandem audits with so many who I consider the stars who I look up on, because I've never been one to be starstruck. But I sure was with some of the First Amendment auditor movement advocates. I'd probably get weak in the knees if Rogue Nation ever spoke to me face to face. So, wishing you all well. Peace out. Protect the Constitution. Be kind to Karens and Brads. Remember, a lot of us were Karens and Brads at one time. Educate the public. Give 10-minute talks to 8th grade history classes, please. There's no more civics. The principals would be hard pressed to deny your speech on the Constitution topic. What is the commonality between the First Amendment and free speech and cell phones? It should have a lively question and answer, period. Do what you can. Get involved with your school boards, as Lincoln said. The politics of our future depends on the educators of today. That burden and duty lies upon our backs. Do it in a positive way as possible. I don't mean to roll over. You can do it firmly. San Joaquin Valley Transparency has a pretty good handle on that, as does Rights Crispy and a number of others, Long Island Auditor, Mass Accountability. I could go on. Thank goodness more good, noble auditors are coming on board. And even some who know how to come down hard quickly, like James Freeman or Clash with Bow, because they have the knowledge behind them and the intellect. So, do what you can. Never give up. Signing off for now.